the inaugural episode of Designer's Corner. My name is Crazy Canuck 1985, and this is a brand new show that is really going to focus more on the design community on TGC Tours specifically. So this is a pilot episode. We'll see how it works. If you guys like it, we get a lot of interest, I will keep this going, hopefully weekly, and I hope to move it over to the TGC Tours channel as well. So we have an awesome guest lined up. I mean, I think this is going to be really cool. We got a veteran designer who, you know, he's been here since the beginning and everyone knows him, but maybe not a lot of people know a lot about him and how he designs. So we're going to get into a really good discussion about that. So this show is generally going to be kind of split up into two parts. First part is going to be my tip of the week, where I'm going to be in the designer showing you guys something really quick. Might be a real beginner tip, might be more advanced, might be somewhere in the middle. And then we will go in and introduce our guest, who is waiting in the green room, and we are going to be playing through one of their courses and just kind of chat about design. So I have a whole bunch of questions lined up. If you guys have any questions, feel free to shoot. And let's just get right on with it. So today what I want to do is, in this little tip of the week, where were we here? I'm over here. We might as well start with something that I'm kind of decent at, and it's planting. So we're just going to look at how kind of I like to effectively plant. In this case, it's going to be kind of a little cliff hill here. So I've kind of already started this just by using a bit more of a, well, I use this, I'll show you the brush I kind of use to create hills, which is right here. So I like to use this kind of little explosion brush. It gives you a lot of little nooks and crannies here. You can raise and lower it up, you know, just like this, up and down, up and down. And it kind of, it gives you kind of some nooks and crannies to really work with here. So I'm going to kind of show you how I like to layer things and do my planting that way. So we'll try to do this as quick as we can. I know we want to get to our guests and stuff, but I want to, you know, I'm just trying this as a little bit of tips and, you know, a little bit of interviews. So we'll see how it goes. So I'm going to start with a couple rocks here. I like to make them big, you know, sink them into the ground where I can. This is going to be tough. This is going to be cool. Yeah, we're going to do some real quick planting here. So I'm just going to use the same rock. So I'm using the lower raise tool. I just like getting them just above the ground here. I'm using the same rock. I mean, you don't have to, but, well, actually you shouldn't. I'm just going to put a few rocks in here just for speed's sake. Because, you know, a lot of people see that I like to spam plant in a lot of places, and spam planting is good. It can be good and a real time saver, but if you're just doing it in a random spot, it looks really forced and kind of ugly. So I'm going to kind of show you how to kind of layer things a little bit more, just so it looks a little bit better. So there's a few rocks down there, and now I'm going to start my layering. So I'm trying to use as many bushes as possible in as many different sizes as possible. What's up, guys? I see you all in chat. I will address the chat a bit more once I get done my tip here, because I want to get this done. So I'm just different plants, different sizes, the occasional rotation here and there. It doesn't have to be painstaking. So yeah, the spam planting is a lot more effective on PC just because of the nature of the designer. If you are a serious designer, you know, you can, there's still some awesome console designers, but PC speed-wise and just the way the game looks, it's so much better on PC. But yeah, so let's see what else we got here. A couple more plants. Doing this very quickly. Another quick tip, if you want, you know, this green stuff, if you want that to look a little more rocky, just take a tree. Some people know this, some people don't, and sink it underground, and you get a nice little rocky look to it. It's a little, not working as much there, but yeah, it's a little bit rockier there, and it's not just bright green. Why that works, I don't really know, but it does. So it gives you kind of a bit more of a rocky texture there. Okay, so we've got a few. As you can see, the spamming kind of just makes things look a little more random. So another thing I like to use is these plants, and I'm finding these are really working well. I'm using the Swiss theme right now. And these are just some kind of like almost these creeping plants. And I'm multi-planting these, so I'm getting a little bit more careful with my spamming because these can eat up a lot of objects on the plant meter. You can rotate plants as you spam to add variety. Yes, you absolutely can. Something I don't normally do. But I kind of find that mine are seem to be varied enough that it's okay, but you can spin it and add variety. I find it tough to do on my controller though. So I'm just adding a few little things there. As you can see, this is looking not too shabby. And then I'll start adding a few grasses. Let's make these really tall. You don't want to make them too tall, especially if they're down really right by where the golfer's playing, because then they can look like they're 10 feet tall, and it looks a little silly. But this is just adding a little texture. I guess texture, we would call it. Almost done. So yeah, as you can, it's just layering. I'm not doing anything special. It's just the spamming can make it random. Okay. And yeah, I always like to add some color. We couldn't have a design stream without adding my favorite plant. I don't know why I like this one. It's versatile. It does not work in step. The underground tree trick does not work in step. Actually, I haven't tried it, but yeah, that would make sense why it wouldn't work. I mean, there you go. I would spend a little bit longer on that, obviously, but for time's sake, that's not a bad start. So yeah, just kind of tip for planting, like really quick kind of spam planting, is just keep it varied, and layer. So different plants. I mean, in this specific scenario, there's others where the same plant works better, but just kind of depends on the look you're going for. So anyway, that is our tip of the week. I'm not actually going to save that because I want to do something else there. All right, so let's bring in our guest. So hopefully our guest is here, and I'm going to bring up my Designer's Corner guest thing. Oh, there we go. All right, let's get him out of the green room. And can you hear me, Mr. Logan? Are you there?
Andre, I am here. Thanks for having me.
Yes. All right. Welcome, Dario Logan. He is my first guest here on Designer's Corner. So, Dario, you're originally from Cleveland, you said, right?
That's right, Cleveland, Ohio. Yeah.
Originally from Cleveland, living in Toronto. Great occupation. He is a professional golfer. I'm sure he'll talk a little bit about that. We can say you're probably going to have the best real life handicap out of anyone that's ever going to be on this channel. You're a +6 handicap in real life. Wow.
Something like that. I mean, we don't keep track.
I guess you guys don't. Yeah, I guess you guys don't keep track. Yeah, so he has been. Yeah, you've been around since the beginning. You've been here since before I have. TGC1 early access, and favorite real life course, Chambers Bay. Have you played it?
I have. I've played it once. I coached a college tournament out there a number of years ago, just for fun.
Yep.
And it was one of my favorite experiences. I think just a golf course unlike any other. It was really cool.
Nice. All right, so let's just get us set up here. There we go. Sorry, I've got to make this go faster here. I'm trying to get rid of this stupid little controller thing. There we go. All right, so I have you in my party here, so we are going to play great private match. We're going to play the Conservatory Club.
All right, let's do it.
So Conservatory Club's been out for, well, you remodeled it. This was an old Job Fickett course that you've painstakingly remodeled.
To be perfectly honest, I spend most of my time in the Designer, but back in TGC1, we kind of a smaller community, so we kind of knew everybody's courses in and out. And I don't know why, but Conservatory Club, which I think started out as Centennial Oak, I think you have to check him on that. It was always one of my favorites because Job and I seem to have a very similar design style. We just like really tough, difficult golf courses. So it was a pleasure to be able to work on this thing because it had a layout that just kind of lent itself to my design style. So there wasn't a lot of work that needed to be done. Kind of like when I worked on Midnight Sun for TGC 1 2.
Right,
Same
right.
kind of thing. Just didn't require a lot of work. It was really fun.
Yeah, I like that you're getting into the whole course remodeling thing. So, all right,
Yeah, no, it's just a
let's.
lot of fun.
Yeah, it's something I've been wanting to try get into a remodel. So, um, people are asking what does CSU stand for?
Oh boy. Let's say it's a school I went to.
There you go.
That's as much info as we'll give up.
There you go. All right, so we are going to play Conservatory Club. I am going to try to beat Mr. Logan here on his own course. We'll see if we can do
You
that.
should do it handily
I
because
should.
I haven't broken 80 out here yet. So I think you're in good
Oh,
shape.
all right. Excellent. So, yeah, I do have some questions lined up. And as well, if you guys want to ask some questions, feel free. And let's start with our first one. How did you discover the golf club?
Actually, I remember it plain as day. I was just scrolling through some YouTube videos of golf course design, and I found I can't remember his name. He was one of the original guys who worked at HB, and he was just doing a tutorial on how to use the original golf course designer in the game. That it hadn't even been released yet,
Mhm.
and I got interested in the game. And as soon as it came out in early access, I bought it day one and jumped into it.
Nice. Nice. So, yeah, you were there from the start when that designer was. I wasn't there from the start, but it was tough to use from what I hear.
It was, yeah. But part of the fun part back then too was figuring out how to make these little tricks and stuff to make your golf courses look better than it was originally intended with the tool set we had.
Right. What was A. Doyley was saying Lauren, it was his name. HB
Yes,
student.
that's right. Yeah,
Yeah, I vaguely remember that name for sure. It's been a while. It seems like a long time, but TGC 1 came out when? Was it 2015?
I think it was 2015.
Jeez.
Was it 2014? I can't remember. It has been. It feels like forever
It
now.
feels like forever, but it's really only been like 4 or 5 years.
2014 is what
Yeah.
Scott was
Oh
saying.
boy. So you said you primarily spend most of your time in the designer. What's your favorite thing? What draws you to the designer here on TGC?
Well, I started out the first like digital golf course design I did was back in a long time ago now, but oh boy, I'm gonna lose that down that slope. Man, I should have designed that green better. Um, I I originally designed in that old Jack Nicklaus game. I think it was called is for oh man, when you were oh man, I think it was a DOS game.
Okay.
Jack Nicklaus Signature Edition, I think, and that was fun because you could move land around real easily. I went later on. I did a little bit of designing in some of the games later on, like Links 2003, but never actually finished a course because it took so long to work on the actual terrain.
Right.
So what I loved about this thing was with a controller, I could easily just make good looking terrain and move it around really quickly, make it very detailed and look good, but you know, get a course done in a reasonable amount of time that I was happy with.
Yeah, ease of use is definitely a big part of this and why I got into the designer too.
Yep, totally
Yeah.
agree.
Oh boy.
Oh man, stay there. Okay.
So I
Gary
mean,
Grayson, yes, I did design in PGA 2000 briefly. Uh,
uh,
you will find here's a little fact for you. If you look at the Tiger Woods, actually, this is for 2003, which is what that game became. Um, you'll find a course by a username DLink6972, a 9-hole course. It's the only course I've ever released to the public before TGC came out.
oh really?
So it was terrible. There are no pictures, thank goodness. But that is the only thing that has ever been released.
Nice. I like it. Ooh.
Oh man,
So
I'm
tell
telling
us
you, I'm not going to break 80 here.
tell us a little bit about this remodel. How did it start? I mean, what was your process with this? Because this was a huge undertaking. I remember this course in TGC 1, and then I remember it well, but then when this came out, I could barely recognize it. It was amazing.
Yeah. So one of the things that I didn't realize until later on is that a lot of the detail, especially with objects, gets lost in the transition from TGC 1 to 2000 or to 2019. And when I opened it up in 2019, I'm like, this doesn't look like I remember it looking. So it wasn't until like maybe halfway through the process that I figured out that it was supposed to look a little different from what the original course looked like. But the thing about it is the course was designed really well, and it was very difficult from the start, and the layout didn't need really to be changed much at all. So we kind of just took we wanted to stretch it out a little bit, make it a little tougher, make the greens a little bit smaller. But other than that, it was just kind of reshaping terrain, opening up the space around the holes.
Hmm.
Nothing really that complicated about it. Just took a lot of time to kind of. Oh,
Ooh.
I have controller issues. Sorry. This could be a rough round.
That's all right.
But
That's all right.
This is why I'm not playing on TGC tours. But yeah, it was. We were just trying to work on some terrain, open up the holes, make the course a little bit tougher, but kind of keep bunkers, greens in the same area, keep the shapes of the holes in the same area.
Hmm.
Just make it a little bit, tougher.
Yeah. It's just, yeah, this course is just, it's immaculate. I mean, I don't like, there's not a blade of grass or a hill out of place. It's just,
It's just it has good. It's easier to work on a course that has good bones before you get into it, because it looks like there's a lot done, but it's really just kind of cleaning up the areas around the hole,
right.
placing some objects where they should be, but also just kind of getting rid of unneeded objects
Hmm.
and putting some heavy rough down to kind of focus your eye more
Okay.
on the hole in front of you.
Right. Yeah, it looks good, and it's one of the really good, truly difficult courses that we have around here, and
Yeah,
it's tough without it's kind of on the edge between like tough and a lot of, some would argue, tricked up, which is the elite golfer's favorite word. Um,
yes, for
but
sure.
yeah, I think it rides that edge pretty close, but I honestly don't find it steps over it into an unfair territory at all.
Well, I think one of the important things is that going into it, we had kind of a specific set of rules that we had to go by to
Hmm.
make sure that obviously we have the 8 box rule around pins to make sure that there's flat area around the pins. um, Rigorous play testing to make sure that you can only stop a ball down a slope, but it's going to be really difficult a lot of the time on the max speed of the greens.
Right.
But the reason we put it on max speed too is to make sure that the greens are never going to get faster than this.
Okay.
So if you slow them down, you can have an easier round. But this is going to test some of the best players out there,
Hmm.
and I'm not one of them, as you can see.
How does it feel to be a better real life golfer than virtual golfer? Not a lot of us have that problem. You're one of the few where you're a better real life golfer than virtual golfer.
Well, it's funny. Like, there'll be days where when I'm playing on maybe a better computer, but I can play some good rounds on this. But there's a lot of similarities between this game and the real life professional game, but there's also some differences. So when I'm designing courses in this game, um, it kind of try to focus on more trying to make it feel like what you would feel in professional tournament rather than actually replicating the shapes or the actual golf courses you play. That's more the focus when I design fictional courses in this game.
Right.
You have the real life recreations, but they don't tend. They're beautiful set pieces and they're well designed, but they don't tend to actually challenge players in the same way that a real life course does.
Hmm.
So just seeing that difference, I guess, is really the only eye-opening thing, when you play the real life game.
Right, right. Yeah, and that's kind of the thing. I see a lot of these awesome RCRs, and they just, some things just don't translate well from real golf to computer golf. It's just,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. I mean, I think the biggest difference, obviously, is I'm gonna have some trouble here, man. Oh man, this is gonna be rough.
Oh, that's all right. We're just
The
hacking
the
around.
uh, the biggest difference, I think, is just that the margin of maybe this. You know how when you aim, you look at a circle of what generally is your acceptable area you're going to land the ball. Let's say, like, you take an 8 iron, for example, from like 155, 160. I don't know what exactly the distance is in this game, but in real life, on a good day, you're looking at maybe about a 20-foot radius on either side of the pin is about maybe 60, 70% of your shots.
Hmm.
That same radius in the game is like 4 or 5 feet as a landing area.
Right.
So you have to design courses that kind of challenge the same feeling, but have stricter landing areas to kind of challenge players more like that.
Right. Ooh.
I'm
So
getting there.
I'm sure I'm sure a lot of people want to know that that maybe I didn't even know this till yesterday that you are a professional golfer, and I mean I don't know how much you want to talk about that, but I mean how does that, like, you've already talked a bit about it, but how does that influence your designs?
Yeah. Well, it's funny because like I focus less on what real life courses throw at you than a lot of designers do, I think, in this game.
Hmm.
Because I guess it's because I can see the difference between real life and championship golf in this game in particular. But that makes it a little more fun because I focus more on the art aspect and then try to make the course as tough as possible, with basically playing to the actual limits of the gameplay rather than real life golf. But for my, I've been playing professional for 10 years now. I've been competing for 25 plus, so I've seen you know 500 golf courses probably in all that time, and I've seen a lot of differences between golf courses. It's been fun seeing how tournaments set them up, and also how different organizations set up golf courses for tournaments you play in. So taking all that into effect, it's kind of more fun to design for different levels of difficulty in this game. um, at least try to replicate the feeling of how that tournament golf is in real life, even if you can't replicate the actual courses to give you the same difficulty.
Right. And yeah, and I can definitely see that in your designs. Like you bring the difficulty, I think, as well as anyone in the game. I mean, oh, you had one course in TGC2 that made me want to pull my hair out. What was it?
I know which one
Ka-
you're talking about. It was Legacy.
Cuyahoga.
Legacy.
Oh, that one too. I
Oh,
forgot about
Cuyahoga. Yeah, that.
Legacy. Cuyahoga was
Yep.
evil, but it was Cuyahoga reminded me a lot of this one. Um, but
Yep.
yeah,
I
that
agree.
one.
This one's a little bit more refined though, because the I think the challenge in this one is more about there's more green to hit the ball on. It's just about if you go after the pin, it's going to be tougher to actually keep the ball on the green or near the pin.
Uh oh. Uh oh. Uh oh.
Oh man.
Whew.
I see Doyle asked a question, do they use the nine box rule in real life? Absolutely not. I've played in the US Open sectional several times at a course called Springfield Country Club in Columbus, Ohio. It's next to the big one they do after the Muirfield tournament. And there are holes that are on the sides of what you would think are actually yellow slopes in this game. Like they actually had to change pins between the 36 hole day several times because you couldn't keep the ball on the
Wow.
green if you missed a putt.
Wow.
So it shouldn't be intentional like that all the time. But I don't think that's very good design or setting hole locations very well, but it does happen in real life for sure.
Wow. Interesting. Oh
And you can
man.
see that in some US Opens too. You'll see, a lot of famous US Opens, especially in the last 20, 25 years. You saw Shinnecock this year. The USGA doesn't shy away from that. The PGA Tour definitely does shy away from that. Their courses are set up pretty easy for their players.
Right. Right. So what's your favorite thing about the designer? Like maybe feature, or
Yeah.
what do you like the
Um,
most?
I actually wrote some notes down because I wanted to be prepared for you here. The favorite thing about the design for me is, like I was saying earlier, being able to use the shaping tool so quickly and effectively in this game to make a good course.
Hmm.
I've never seen anything really like it. I think you're using like a tool like just the standard Unity, I guess. It's just far tougher to actually work on a landscape. But they designed actually a very good tool set for creating realistic looking courses pretty quickly in this game.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely like that. You get a little bit of a weird lag every time I see your
Yeah,
golfer hit.
I'm playing on a laptop that's half battery right now. So.
Okay. Are you getting the same look on yours? Is that what's
Oh
happening on
yeah,
yours?
it's like 3 frames a second, but
Oh,
we're gonna get
jeez.
through this. I promise.
Oh boy. So, with that being your favorite, what do you hate about this thing? What do you not like as
Well,
much?
actually, I think most of the things that I don't like are the Unity engine and not the designer itself. I think having squiggly lines all over the place, not having resolution of the landscape as much as you'd like, so you can do straight vertical cliffs, things like that. They take away a lot from things you would really like to be able to do, like stone walls and like retaining walls that look really good.
Right.
Just kind of hard to make those finer details look really good when you don't quite have the ability to make those elevations the way you want.
Mm-hmm. All right, I haven't had a good shot here. Oh, that might be okay. Go. Nope.
Co-ruler 2 says, what are Dario's career in real life golf earnings? Not as nearly as much as you'd expect. Probably I haven't played straight for all 9 years I've been a pro, but probably something like 400,000, something like that, spread over 6-7 years. And that's mostly just a few big wins on like mini tour stuff like that, not and on the big tours.
Right. So you're playing the life of I guess driving a golf tournaments and
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Not the big show. I've played a few web events, PGA Tour Latin America, PGA Tour Canada. None of the big tour, but yeah, you could say life on the Hooters Tour. Actually, it's gotten a little better since because when the PGA Tour decided to purchase PGA Tour Canada, LATAM, and China, it actually got rid of the mini tour circuit, and now they're all World Golf Ranking tours.
Okay.
But it also does make it tougher to get to all those tournaments because they're all,
Right. Let's see if I can make this.
Bale says RNA seem to be the best at finding the balance. I kind of agree with that, actually. It seems like the Open always a good setup, and they don't care if scores are super low, super high, as long as the challenge is there, the way they want it.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, I would say that I think players in real life are much like players in this game, or some of them. You're going to get guys who complain about setups regardless of what happens. So you just have to kind of take it as it comes. You have to play whatever's in front of you.
Right. We're struggling on this green.
Yeah,
both
no
of
kidding.
us. There we go.
I've managed a few. I was joking earlier. I've actually managed a few, maybe 2 or 3 under pars on this course. But when I'm playing good golf in this game, it makes it easier to test the golf course instead of doing this crap.
Oh, for sure.
But it's definitely become a finer balance of kind of very fine details around the greens to make sure that pins are where they should be, but not egregious.
Right. See, I mean, a lot of people would look at this pin here on 6 and they'd be like, oh, I got to hit a long iron into this and it's only 3 boxes from, but I mean, you got a backstop back there.
Yeah, so the thing about a hole like this is, well, first of all, you're not going to see more than probably 4 or 5 pins in a course that just aren't gettable. This is going to be one of them.
Right.
But the other thing about it is this hole really wouldn't play any different if the pin was 4 or 5 boxes from the edge than if it was 3, because the intended shot is to try to land the ball on the front of the green, roll it into the slope and back toward that green area. So it'll make the putt from there slightly shorter, but the way it plays won't really change much based on how far the pin exactly is from the green. So kind of like this shot here. We'll see if it sets me up.
Yeah, this is going to work, I think.
Blind squirrel. This is the hole I decided to hit a perfect.
You picked the right one.
Any of the 40-yard fairways so far, but
that'll work.
Yeah, that's
very
gonna
nice.
Fun,
yeah.
So got myself a birdie opportunity. I think in my upcoming design for the U.S. Open contest, I kind of took it a little more or further from the edges, but it's not going to be possible to get as near them because the greens are going to be firmer. We're going to see how it turns out, but it tends to make it so it's a little easier to hit the green if you hit good shots, but you're going to have 15, 20 feet for birdie on almost every hole,
Right.
So you have to hit a good shot just to get in position to have a birdie putt, and then you got to hit a good putt to have a chance of making it.
Yeah. Yeah, we have been looking at your pictures of your major championship course, and wow.
I may get disqualified since we're playing it in either December or October, but we're going to go with the
in what? Sorry, you cut
out
there.
I'm using the themes. All the trees are like orange and red, so We're
Oh,
playing the U.S. Open in either Alaska or in October, so that might be a problem. But we're gonna roll with it at this point, so can't go back.
yeah, I would hope that's not an issue.
It should
That's
be a great contest, though. I look forward to seeing all the designs that come out of it.
yeah, that's a big one. But yeah, I looked at. There's one picture you had there, the post you. I couldn't tell if that was a real life picture or not.
That I was well, to be honest, I'm playing around with touching up the photos a little bit now to see how it goes. But it
Oh
does
yeah,
look in game. It looks pretty. That's one thing I love about this game is you can make a good looking hole without a lot of objects on it. You can
yeah,
use the landscape and the lighting to make it look pretty good.
right. So
I
as a,
finally got my game back.
well,
It's
this is
crazy.
looking good. That's how you play this hole.
Oh yeah.
So as a
I'm sorry.
designer, what's your what do you feel is your greatest strength?
It's the same things I was saying before, just creating smooth landscapes. I think realistic surfaces. I kind of minimize how many objects I use on my courses because I'd rather show off the land and the lighting and how it hits the land. I'd rather
Mhm.
do that than put many objects like a lot of other designers do. It's just something I've never been good at all. So I'd rather just create open golf courses that have a lot of width to them.
Okay. Yeah. See, I mean, we're the polar opposite. I feel in that way.
Exactly.
I go the other way. Yeah. It's
Absolutely. And the best thing is there's no right way to do it. You're going to see a great variety of courses in different styles because it's
exactly.
why it's a
Yeah.
lot of fun.
Yeah. So you'd say that's kind of your bigger weakness is
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I just can't I can't do like grasses and bushes. I not only do I not have the patience to put it all down, but I spend an hour putting grass down and then it just won't look any good. I'd rather just leave whatever's there as grass, the grass texture. So
Hmm.
I kind of just I don't even spend much time on it anymore.
Okay.
Even the U.S. Open contest course I'm working on, that golden brown grass is kind of supposed to be, heather looking grass.
Yeah.
But I haven't put a single grass object down because it just looks worse when I try to put grass instead of just leaving it as that texture.
Hmm. Yeah. Co-ruler saying Dario makes smooth contouring look easy. It's not. Takes a lot of practice and patience. Oh, for sure. And yeah,
Yeah, it's
you do it so
my
well.
favorite tool 99% of the time, the smooth tool, circle gradient tool, just spending hours and hours working on landscaping around greens and fairways and stuff.
Hmm. Yeah.
If
You
you can
make it
get good with that tool, I think you're in a good place to create realistic looking courses.
right. Um, what's your all-time favorite course you have built in this designer in any game?
Okay, so it's not my favorite course, but it is the one that comes to mind whenever I think of this question. Is Crawford Mines.
Ah,
It
yes.
wasn't because I don't think I look back on it and I'm like this doesn't even look that good. It's repetitive. The objects are terrible. The landscaping is crap. But I look back on it and I'm like that was the first time that I think any of us probably had a chance to really design a golf course instead of a template. Because that was the first course I did with the surface brush tools in TGC1.
Right.
So I have a lot of good memories, kind of fiddling around with cliffs and stuff like that, and that kind of sticks out in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, one of the things that try to make an effort to do is every new course has to be better than the previous one,
Yep.
and every hole has to be better than the last one I made. It may not always end up like that, but the effort is always supposed to be that.
Yeah.
So, I look back on my first course as a TGC1, and it was just terrible. That one sticks out in my mind for
Yeah. 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 Crawford. That's kind of where people really started breaking out and started to figure out what they could do with the now that the brushes started working
sure. Yep,
and yeah, that's the one I
for sure.
remember the most. I there's so many courses in this game, it's hard to remember them all, but Crawford Mines
Yeah.
is one I'll always remember, and I'll always remember playing it in Q school and acing the second hole
Yep.
in the
I
last round.
remember. I remember all that. Right? It's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah,
So long ago too. Now.
yeah. It's crazy. Yeah, Crawford Mines. It's a good one. Ooh, come on. Oh, I thought I had one. Thought I had one. Um, so I have an interesting question here, and this was one that was posed to me by I got a PM of it, and I hadn't really thought about it, but so he was a rookie designer, and he asked me, "What are your three do's and three don'ts in the designer?" It's a very broad question, but
I may come up with more than three, but this is what I wrote down for this question because I think this is really important stuff. The first one is playtest constantly. Playtest, after while you're designing, while you're placing holes. while you're designing greens. Uh, Make a change, go play test it from wherever you're hitting the ball into that pin, for example. Go back, make another change, and play it again. The small details make a lot of difference, especially in areas that are going to get the most play. You don't have to play test when you're placing stands. You have to play test when you're making small adjustments to your greens and things like that.
Right.
Second point would be, like I said before, use that smoothing brush all the time. Just anytime, even when you're not doing anything to your course, use the smoothing brush just to smooth something, because you always want the golf course to look like it's natural ground, basically, no matter where it is. So you can, even if you're trying to next hole should be, take that smoothing brush and go to a hole you've already, find somewhere where you can make it a little bit smoother. Those kind of things really stand out, especially when you're framing up shots from the tee and the approach.
Okay.
And the third one is going to be controversial, but I absolutely 100% believe this. You want to give the option for your course to play as difficult as possible. And even if you design big greens or small greens, always push the pins toward a hazard somehow. Put them against the edge of the green, put them against the edge of a bunker or water. The reason for that is because there's actually more similarities with designing a golf course to making a video game than there are to actual golf course architecture. You're trying to create an experience for the player. And if the challenge isn't there, the player is going to like what they see, but they're going to get bored quickly. The way you create a replayable golf course is every situation you put them in needs to be something new, something fresh, and something that makes them think. So that's the reason I kind of go on that a lot, especially when we're talking about new releases from me. But for any rookie designer, don't be afraid to push the pins to the edges, especially because you're not going to make people happy all the time anyway. So
yeah.
You don't want to make your golf courses bland, or nobody's going to remember them besides what they see. So if you want somebody playing it, that's what you got to do. 3 don'ts. Don't overuse the planting on your course. I tend to underuse it a lot of the time, but that's a design choice. It's like you have to pick and choose where you want specific objects to be. Don't just completely spam everything all over your course. Make sure that everything you put down has a purpose, even if it's a forest or a brushy area. Don't be afraid to do something different. Doing something different, even on the smallest degree or huge degrees, is how you get somebody to notice what you're doing.
Right.
And then the third one would be, this is kind of a little bit tougher, but you when people give you feedback on your course, you want to listen to what they say, but you also want to watch them play the course and what they do, because a lot of the time these things don't line up together. If somebody's saying that a course is too tough, but they're going out and shooting 10 under when they first go out and play the course, there's probably a disconnect between the difficulty and the feedback.
Yeah.
So it doesn't mean that the feedback's bad. It's just you should get an idea of what that person's actually trying to tell you versus what they're actually doing in the course, because that can be very important to notice.
Interesting. Those are good answers. I like that. That's I really struggled to come up with answers when I was first asked that, but those are good. Those are very good.
I think it's just from, I don't know, like I've seen, you see a lot of courses released, and even though there's no way to predict if a golf course is generally going to be successful, or catch your eye or something. But I think there's things in everything that all of us notice tend to be good, and some of them tend not to be, you know what I mean? And for me personally, it's when I play a golf course that really flat greens or pins that are very easily accessible, I tend not to keep interest in the course, even if it's beautiful, just because I'm not being challenged in some way. It's like having a beautiful open world you're playing a game in, but nothing there to do,
Right.
And the opposite, obviously, is, when you have a course that's so difficult, it gives you no options at all. It kind of lends you into just one option per hole, so it's not actually letting the player think.
Okay. I like Dale's taken off. See you later. We've got a couple. We got Reeb Duke in the chat, Mr. Vinegar. Let's see. What do we see in here? Doyley's asking, what's it like to shoot worse in a video game than you do in real life? We talked about that already. And he's also asking, any plans to stream in your future?
Yes, but it's more of a. It's not by choice. I just properly, to be honest. I would love to do some live streaming with designing so I can actually show the process of how I work in the designer. Because I've had a lot of people ask me, particularly about how I do my bunkers and things like that. I just haven't really been able to do anything beyond recording a couple quick YouTube videos so far.
Right.
But I promise I will definitely get to that in the future, especially hopefully when I have a little more time to work.
Awesome.
But it's something I definitely want to do. I definitely want.
That is good news. The more designer streams we get, the better. Spartan for Night says, "Do you have more hole-in-ones in real life or in TGC?"
I think I've had more hole-in-ones in a round in real life. I only have one in real life,
Oh,
and
really?
I didn't even see it go in the hole. I was playing a tournament on the old e-golf tour down in North Carolina. This is like maybe 10 years ago now, 9 years ago. And I was playing a course called Northstone Country Club, and I hit a ball over a mound in the center of the green, and we went to the back of the green. And I was looking over the green by like 20 some water, and somebody just went back and checked the hole, and it went in. But
Huh.
I've actually made 2 hole-in-ones in the same round in TGC, one I think.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I've actually had more hole-in-ones in a round.
Wow. There you go. Interesting. Your wife, this is my wife, almost has a hole-in-one and doesn't even golf.
She
It's
has to teach me how to do it then.
Yeah, yeah. I have never had one either. But sometimes there's a connection where golfers that aren't so great seem to make hole-in-ones, and guys that have been doing it for their whole life can't seem to get them. Now this
I
hole,
hear you.
I love. I love this hole. This is the perfect bit of strategy here. Short par five. I mean, you're. Oh, do I want to try to go driver here? I want to because I want to hit here in two, but it's a risk.
This hole took more time to get just right than any other hole in this course. Actually, any other hole I've designed in TGC. Period.
Really?
It looks very seamless, I guess, when you look at it from the tee. But finding the perfect width of fairway next to those bunkers to make sure that you have to hit a perfect shot like you just did there
Mm-hmm.
to catch that into the fairway, it took hours and hours and hours of tweaking.
Well, there you go. Here, the guy that's 10 over in his round just finds the smallest part of his fairway here.
Might have gotten away with it. Yeah.
Oh.
See, that's how it works. Got to put a little draw on that.
Doyley says, any plans on porting Brookledge over?
I actually I've got about 7 courses from TGC 1 and 2 that I'm working on, just kind of off and on. That it's gonna. Ever since I decided to really go into, I mean, every course I do from now on takes more and more time because of the detail I put into it. So it's really tough to get all those together. But I really would like to do it. I don't want to release Brookledge without giving it a remodel and an update because it just doesn't hold up to what it should now.
Mm-hmm.
But like even for example in the course, this one might work out. It's got to get up a little.
Get up.
Oh,
Stop.
Nope,
Oh,
stop.
You're good.
Freddie Couples there.
Yeah.
Even the U.S. Open course I'm working, it's going to take a lot longer than the other courses I've done because you'll notice a conservatory here. We probably have a total of about 7 or 8 houses on the entire course.
Mm-hmm.
The U.S. Open course is going to probably have over 100 on it.
Wow.
It takes time to do all that stuff, just to get the feeling of the course, of the out of bounds of the course.
Oops.
Right.
That was weird. I tried to putt out of the rough and that did not go well. Ooh, look at this break.
Spartan says, what was the hardest shot to learn to hit in real life?
Oh.
That's a hard one. Because the thing is, like, a lot of people say like a shot off tight lie is the hardest one to hit.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, usually your expected margin of error on a flop shot off tight lie isn't that tight. Like you're really just trying to get it within 5-6 feet from 10-15 yards.
Right.
I would say the toughest thing to do that you have to do in real life now is hit the ball far and straight. It's really most of the game on the professional level at this point. You have to hit the driver straight and you have to hit it over 300 yards. I'm not a huge guy. I'm not in muscular shape. So it takes a while for me to poke it out over 300.
Right.
That's the hardest thing for me to learn, but it's more because of the physical part of it, not because of the skill of actually learning the shot.
Got it. So, start to finish for you, roughly, how long does it? This is always question I get all the time. How long does it take you to finish a course? And I always find that a tough question to answer because it depends on the course. But
It
for
does, yeah.
for you, roughly, would you have an idea?
Uh, it used to be a lot less than it is now. It takes
Hmm.
hours now to put into it. Although I would say, even as it takes more time now, I've gotten better at managing my time. But it probably would be somewhere around 80 hours.
Yeah.
That's about an average, I would say. I have only done a few in the past year and a half, so
Hmm.
it's kind of hard for me to say. But conservatory took me about a year and a half, and or I mean, sorry, about 80 hours. And in the last year and a half, I've probably done three courses that have maybe taken about 50 to 60. So
Yeah.
it's getting longer.
Okay.
Most of the most of the time, I don't like spending in the designer though. Is just doing detail work that isn't going to affect the gameplay.
Right.
But putting houses down, making sure everything's pretty around the edges. I find it very difficult to stay interested in that, but it's also very important to get people in the game.
Hmm. Yeah, that immersion level
Yeah.
is big, and it's so interesting to hear like designers just have different kind of prior. Like you look at an Arctic Fury who's 100% into the immersion, and sometimes whole design isn't always there, and
Yeah.
it's yeah, and they're but you can still both like a CSU course and an Arctic Fury course can be equally as memorable. So it
Yeah,
just
and going along with that, you have to make decisions on what you're going to put your time into for level of detail.
Mhm.
And it's similar. One of the things that I've learned, and this is a good tip for a lot of upcoming designers and stuff. Don't focus as much on reading about golf course architecture and design theory, and focus more on watching YouTubes from GDC and game design theory, because that's what you're actually doing when you design in this game. Is you're creating essentially a video game using a set of rules that TGC has given you. You're creating an experience for people and using the same kind of rules of how do you focus a player's eye on a path? How do you create a puzzle that doesn't have too many options but has more than one option? All those things apply to what you're doing in this game more than I think the theory of golf course design does, as you find it in a book.
I love that answer because
I think there's actually one. If you're not, sorry, there's one YouTube video from GDC, and if you use the keywords negative space, you're going to find the talk I'm talking about. It's a really good hour-long conversation on how level design is focuses your eye on the right things, and how adding more detail can actually detract from an experience. So
hmm
that's a good one to watch if anybody has time out.
I like that. Yeah, it's something I try to do is you're trying to draw the eye a certain place, and yeah, kind of like I said earlier, like the golf course architecture and that's all awesome, and it works, but there's sometimes where that stuff doesn't quite translate into real golf. Like there's the big template design stuff that a lot of designers are trying, and just these like classic old school like oh, what are the name like what are these guys
Yes,
names
Seth
make.
Rayner,
Yeah,
Steve
exactly
McDonald,
those, and I
all
mean
those guys, Donald Ross, those guys. Yep.
yeah, and I
But
mean
the,
real
the, thing, the
life.
funny thing
uh,
about it is, though, you talk about any of those guys, any of those guys, they don't design like each other either. They were doing their own thing as artists.
right.
And they did things that are very memorable, and they've designed holes that are great. But when the first Redan hole was designed, it was the first of its kind.
Hmm.
If another one's designed like that, it's like looking at, I don't know, somebody paints the Mona Lisa again, and you're
Right.
like, this is great, but the original is, the artwork.
Mm.
This is just a recreation of it. So don't be afraid to do your own thing, and kind of make your own rules up as you go, for sure.
Right. So, how about when you're in the designer talking about kind of your well, maybe we'll just focus on I don't know how you do if do you finish a hole before you go and start a new one, or do you kind of work on the overall environment first and work on pieces of holes? Like yeah, how's your workflow work?
It kind of depends on what course I'm designing, but generally my workflow is, and this kind of goes back once again to game design. I'm kind of I'm trying to design the course as a player would play the course.
Okay.
So I will start. I'll place a clubhouse usually just to start.
Hmm.
Sometimes that'll change, but a lot of the time you want a starting place.
Right.
Um, I'll take that and I'll find a place where the first tee looks nice looking area. I'll clear some land and I'll find a green somewhere out in the distance that looks nice,
Mhm.
and I will design the features of that hole to start. Usually from start to finish, minus the areas around the fringe of the hole.
Okay.
And then after that, I'll find what looks like a nice tee area next to the first green, and we'll plop that down and design another hole from there. So it may change later on, as you actually flesh out your course and design the details and work on everything. But at least by the time you get to the 18th tee, you're going to have a golf course that feels like it was laid out by somebody that was walking the entire golf course and seems to connect together.
Right. I like that. This is funny. Just I'm looking at scores here. I'm pretty good at this game, but like sometimes I can go into autopilot and just shoot the breeze with people and still shoot 7 or 8 under. You could not do that on this course.
No, that's one of the things that I wanted when I was talking about getting the feeling of a championship, tournament golf course. Um, when you're playing a U.S. Open style golf course or just a PGA Tour style golf, you have to have 100% of your concentration into every shot.
Mhm.
And even then, if you execute perfectly, sometimes things are going to go wrong, and you have to figure out how do you plan for something that could go wrong, even if you don't make a mistake.
Right.
So that's kind of how you're really trying to design a golf course. I think is to make players make decisions on not only what can they actually pull off, but sometimes there's no way to pull it off, and do you have enough ability to aim away from what you want there? that's
Mhm.
that's really the interesting challenges.
There we go. That's a tough hole. Doyley
Yeah,
says, "How does Varner take his round 3, round 4 collapse in the DGA? Sorry for calling him out on stream. I don't know what these means by
Varner.
that, but
Harold Varner's a friend of mine. I think he won
oh,
the
okay,
Australian PGA a couple of years back. He's a really funny dude.
yeah,
But Doyley was playing in a DGA tournament, a solo just one, but Varner
right.
was leading, and then
Oh
he
yeah,
called a player on. So, which is
gotcha.
not like him because he does not care one bit about what he's doing on the course. Just
Right.
takes it.
This pin is tricky. All right, let's see if I can get this. Do you have a favorite designer other than yourself?
I do. Unfortunately, I don't think he's doing too well mentally, but Pete Dye has always been the guy in real life, and then
Yep.
in the game. I don't have a favorite designer, to be honest, and
Mhm.
part of it is because I simply don't spend enough time playing other people's golf courses in this game.
Yeah.
I probably only have 12 or 13 plays on my account total at this point, a full 18 hole rounds,
Right.
and most of those are for the U.S. Open to see those courses too,
Right.
or sorry, the World Cup of Design.
Right.
But I just don't play a lot. I always keep tabs of what's going on in the forums, but it's hard for me to give feedback on a course other than it looks great,
Mm-hmm.
because I love the designs, but I don't really like giving criticism if I haven't really even had a chance to play it. And even then, there's not a lot of valid criticism that I like giving on a golf course other than I like this or I didn't like it,
Right.
and that doesn't really add a lot to the conversation unless somebody's really asking for my opinion on something.
Mm-hmm.
So if somebody wants some input or something on a course that they're designing, I'm happy to talk with them at length. But I'm not really gonna, I don't want to give a whole lot of feedback on courses that I
Right.
play. But I love just about every course that comes out, man. There's so much talent now; it's hard to keep up with it.
Oh, it's
Great
crazy.
golf
Yeah.
courses.
Back from, the TGC1 days when, just a few guys that figured out what they were doing. Now we've got 20, 30, 40 guys that you could say, wow,
Yep,
this guy's established and knows what he's doing.
yep, exactly.
Yeah. So,
Yep. And the other cool thing is everybody has a lot of these designers have signature things that they do on their golf courses. Your rock planting and bush planting, like you were working on earlier, is
mhm.
one of the things that you can pick out in a hurry when you see one of your courses.
Right.
Trying to think of some other ones from a while. I mean, most of the guys that knew from a while back don't design it, but Yeti and all those guys,
Mm-hmm.
you always knew his stuff.
Yeah.
Um, but having that signature thing that you do really well, exploit it a lot because people know when they see it, as long as you don't overdo it and make
Yep.
it egregious, it's going to be a signature thing that you see.
Yep. What's your
But man, oh
signature?
man,
You would say your just your general kind of sculpting, or what
no,
makes a CSU
everybody
course?
everybody talks about my bunkers,
Yeah.
and they're honestly they're not even like they're so boring. I do the same shapes all the time, but only because I actually had this question pop up. Somebody was talking about the U.S. Open Design Contest. Why didn't I do flat bottom bunkers? And I would have loved to do flat bottom bunkers,
Uh-huh.
but unfortunately, it's a great time to pick a great shot there.
I
Nice,
was wondering what the line you were taking there. I was like,
yeah,
wow.
meant to fade it a little bit. Um, the rendering in 290 and just it doesn't look very good doing flat bunkers. The mesh just collapses, make it nasty. So
Right.
I think the bunkering style that I have, it guarantees that you have some color that faces you so
Mm-hmm.
you can identify where the hazards are, but it also, mixes it up with some green grass in between for the bunker tongues to make sure that it doesn't look very uniform.
Right. Yeah, I love the bunkering on this course. Just the lobes that stick out there is just
Yeah.
you can
Actually,
yeah.
the I was really impressed with the Boreal bunker lips. They actually looked really good on this course. I didn't think they would look very good going into it, but
Yeah,
they
some
turned out better than I thought.
a lot of people don't like them, but I don't mind them at all.
Yeah, as long as you really deepen the face so the lip goes down instead of out into the, she looks pretty good, I think.
Right. Slowly rolling. There we go. All right. Oh, I actually have a birdie putt.
Spartan says if you could play one round with anybody,
Oh, I missed that one. Yeah, there's a good one.
that's a good one actually. Um, man, that's gonna be a tough one. I'm gonna have to think about that for a bit.
How's golf in Toronto in February? Doily asks.
It's very comfortable sitting in the simulator lounges, drinking coffee.
Nice. So, what made the move from Cleveland to Toronto?
Girlfriend lives in Toronto, so
Ah,
we actually live downtown there. Actually, there, I can fly easily to wherever we need to go, and it really does. It's not like you want to be in Florida over the summer anyway. It's so hot.
right.
It's actually very, very nice there. And now TPC Toronto just opened up, actually.
Oh,
It's three 18-hole golf courses in a place that used to be called Osprey Valley. So basically, the whole center of PGA Tour Canada and all those players are going to be playing out there now. So it's
okay.
only gotten better for Toronto golf recently.
Nice. Oh, I love this short par four.
This one, it looks so different, but there's nothing. This is one of my favorite
Yeah.
from the old one. It's exactly the same hole, has the same features, hazards, and everything. And I think the fairway is just wide enough down there near the entrance to the green that you can kind of justify going for it. But if you over something or you get some wind going the wrong, it can be
Mm-hmm.
kind of tough.
Oh, yeah. I think I've poor tempoed this into the water more than once.
Yeah,
This is a good shot here.
it's gonna work.
So we got a couple holes left. Do we have any final questions here for Dario before we sign off here in a few minutes? It's been an absolute pleasure. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, this has been great. I hope this continues to get bigger and bigger.
Mm-hmm, me too. And if anyone here is interested and wants to be a guest on the show, I mean, I'm taking everyone from established designers to new guys, and we can talk course design and whatever you guys want. I mean, I'm still trying to build this show into something that you guys like. So I'm open to suggestions and all that. So if you want to be a guest, just hit me up on the PMs and go from there. There we go. There we go. Yes, I'll even take Eric as a guest. I'll even take Eric. Because he's not on enough TGC shows. He's a busy man. All right, 18.
All right.
Oh, Doyley's got a good question. What RCR is left that needs to be made? He asks. Hmm. So is there a real life course that you wish was in the game?
Um, let's see. I don't know which. I actually don't. I haven't kept up with the RCR, so I don't know actually which courses are in the game.
Right.
But Cabot Links and
Ooh.
Cabot Cliffs need to be
Mm-hmm.
done.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's one of the best experiences I've ever had in a golf. Just played it for fun one time, and it was unbelievable. I mean that needs to be done, and I imagine actually at least the Cliffs course could probably be done pretty easily as an RCR. I think everything's there that you would need. So I would love to see that.
That's yeah, I'd love to get out golfing out there. But that is one where I mean I'm not an RCR guy, but that is one that I've looked at that I'm like,
Yep.
that could
Yeah,
be
you
interesting.
have to get up there and play it, and it would be a great one in the game for sure.
Yeah.
And the links course is actually very, very difficult. The Cliffs course is more of a resort course,
Right.
6.5, 6.4, 6.3s.
Mm-hmm.
But they've got a pair of really great courses there.
Nice. Reeb Duke says, I want to say that Dario's the one guy that had the conceptual part of hole design down from day one. The rest of us caught up, but he had the why figured out before most of us. Yeah.
That's very nice, Reeb. I appreciate it. But I will say I have definitely been, I mean, like I definitely had a big advantage. I think just playing for so long, playing tournament golf for so long, I kind of knew. Oh, very nice, good finish there.
There we go.
Just playing tournament golf kind of gets you into the aspect of what you expect to see in a tournament situation. So I guess from that aspect, it was kind of easy to design courses that had that feeling. But I mean, most of what I learned about designing a golf course in this game came from other players. So we're one big happy family, and everybody kind of benefits from every better course that comes out because we all learn something. So there's everybody gets credit for everything that goes forward.
Nice. Well, there's a lot of red on that card, but still, that was a lot of fun. And
It was. Thanks for having me.
yeah, I really appreciate having you on. And yeah, that was a lot of fun. And I wanted it to be an hour show. I wanted to do the timing today, and it is an hour and 2 minutes, so I can't get much better than that. So hopefully, yeah, that's what we're going to be trying to do. So hopefully it's going to be in this time slot from here on out, kind of just before what's going on. But yeah, guys, any feedback you have, and please let me know on the forums or through PMs how we can make this better. And again, I just want to say one more thank you to Dario for joining me on this first episode. So thank you
Thanks,
very
Andre.
much.
Thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it.
All right, guys, and we are going to sign off. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you on the next Designer's Corner.